Top Flip Flops.
Grapaholics Mixtapes.
Okay, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 85 of High Top Flip Flops. As always, my name is Krish. I'm here with Nivek, and today we have two incredibly special guests with us. We have Guled Abdi and Tim Blair of the incredible CBC comedy sketch show titled Tallboyz. The show is sometimes absurdist, sometimes filled with musical numbers, sometimes touching on some really important and contemporary issues. These two lads have done their fair share of podcasts. So to join us here on this balmy Thursday evening in March, the night that Norm Powell has been traded from the Toronto Raptors, is
sad day.
It's a sad day, and this episode is just going to be a memorial episode. Actually, we're not going to touch on anything else. I hope that's okay. For the next 3 hours, we're just going to run through his career with the Raptors. I hope that's okay with the two of you.
Oh, no, I'm prepared. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I have some of my top 5 favorite Norm moments.
I actually have a eulogy I'd like to read.
No, please. Yeah, I think that's where we need to start. But
shout out to Osmos. I mean, they lost one today.
I know.
They lost one for sure. But you know what? He's got his and one deal now, which he's got his own Understand the Grind brand that is really blowing up. This is sincerely becoming
I'm discovering that and one is still around. Like I'm learning 2 new things today.
That's right. It started with Fred. I guess he got his and one deal maybe 2 years ago, and then he recently moved, and now the mantle kind of is held by Norm Powell, which is it's phenomenal. And you know what? It's going to be okay. The transition's going to be okay. He's playing for a team that also plays in black, red, and white. So the mental and emotional toll, and I think the Raptors are playing them in like 3 days or something like that. So the grieving process. It will be drawn out more than we think. But to actually to get into what we actually wanted to talk about, as we said, you folks have shared so much about your writing process, about what this kind of journey of doing sketch comedy maybe and doing comedy individually and as a troupe, and then now on to CBC, we certainly hope to kind of to maybe do a bit more reflection with you two today on challenges that you may have faced along the way, maybe try and get to know the two of you better as individuals as well. I suppose the warm-up that we wanted to do is actually have everyone open their YouTube up and share 3 of the videos in the recommends. I feel like there's no better way to get a sense. I was telling Nivek, I was like, it doesn't give us a sense of who you are overall, but it gives us a sense of like who you are in the past like 2 months, because the YouTube algorithm isn't like, it's not too intense, but it gives you a good snapshot, So I'll give you 2 a second if you need, and I'm happy to start as well.
I mean, I got my stuff. I mean, the top 3.
Pull up.
That's right, because there's a lot of them, so I didn't want to have everyone read all of them out, because we obviously don't want to
Well, let's not get too personal there.
That's right, you get to pick 3.
My top 3 are get out of bronze lobbies in Warzone tips. I watch a lot of Warzone videos, so I think it's helped improve my gameplay, but I forget most of what's in these videos because they're like 25 to 30 minutes long a piece.
Right.
The next one is called Ollie Pup. It's TMG Knees, Tiny Meat Gang. It's like a podcast.
Nice.
And I think it's one of the podcast hosts and his girlfriend and their dog. And
Sick.
the third one is Lil Dicky professional rapper featuring Snoop Dogg reaction.
Whoa.
I watch a lot of reaction videos, especially when I love a song. I don't know if I watch for Lil Dicky, but I think it's just recommended me because I watch a lot of reaction videos for music videos. So
Yeah, we have that in common, man. Top three. I got the first one is a Sean C reaction to Brockhampton's Buzz Cut, which is
Nice.
the single they just dropped yesterday. And yeah, what I love it when I'm hyped about a song and I'm so excited and I've already like listened to it like 4 or 5 times and there's no one to talk to. It's like 3 a.m. I'm like, all right, time to watch reaction videos. Imagine I'm having a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. That, and then I got Baby Keem No Sense music video that apparently just dropped. I have not watched it yet,
nice.
but
Okay.
it's in my recommendation.
Nice.
And then the third in the top three just says how Americans speak Spanish. It's 45 seconds long, and I can't. Looking from the frame, I have no context. It looks like a TV clip. It looks like a clip from a show.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll check it out after this. It's piqued my interest.
Incredible. That's phenomenal. I think something that I didn't realize would happen as well is that by way of sharing your recommendeds, because your recommendeds are often, if not most times, are like adjacent to what you're actually watching. So by way of reading out your recommends, you're also like, there's a little part of you that's like justifying why it's there, you know?
Yes.
Which, I certainly didn't mean to do, but it ends up happening one way or another. Nivek, did you want to share your top three?
Yeah, for sure. One is a Scrubs clip. I don't know if there are any Scrubs heads here.
oh man,
This one is the sad one. It's Where Do You Think We Are? I don't know if
Oh,
you
wow.
seen that
no,
one
I'm not
where
familiar with that.
this guy dies and then one of the doctors is just, he thinks he's still alive. And then JD, who's Zach Braff, comes behind him. And he's like, where do you think we are? And then he's like, oh, we're at a cemetery. So that's real.
Damn. Oh my
Wow.
God. That's really
Yeah,
dark.
That's introspective Scrubs.
Yeah. You were talking
Beautiful.
about Warzone and reaction, but this is about life.
Yeah. There's so much. I can tell you have a lot of depth to you, Nivek,
Yeah.
just from that clip alone.
Whoa. Thanks, King. I appreciate that one. I also got If Frank Ocean Made Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
It's always good.
That one has made the rounds.
Oh, and then Eric Andre, Mike Penis.
Classic.
It's truly a classic. It's truly a classic.
And how about you?
My top three recommends are the new Brockhampton song. I guess I watched the video last night, but it's showing up again. I've got Aubrey Plaza's opening monologue at the 2019 Film Independent Spirit Awards. I think I watched her opening monologue from last year, just yesterday, hence why this is showing up. It was really well done. And I have I have highlights from Mexico versus USA in the CONCACAF men's Olympic qualifying soccer tournament.
Oh,
Those
nice.
are my top three. I'll say top three. We'll just forget about the other ones. But thank you for indulging us, because that's as I said, it's a fun way to get a sense of maybe where people's heads are at, or maybe their minds are at. You know, Nivek, we're concerned, man. I don't know why that clip was peeled in his face.
Well, I during the pandemic, I went back and watched whole shows. Sopranos. I'm on Scrubs right now because I watched Scrubs like 10 years ago when I was in high school. You guys had any of those kind of moments, any of those shows?
Yeah, I've been going read back. I watched a little bit of Scrubs, but I like, how many seasons is it? I never seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's 9. We only recognize 8.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they recast at a certain point, right? Like the new generation comes in, they pull a Degrassi.
Yeah, they did that exactly, and then nobody bought it because they're like, we need Zach Braff, we need him back, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I've done that. Like, I tried, but then I fall off immediately. Like, I'm trying to watch Adventure Time. I don't know where I left off, so I'm trying to start from the beginning.
Oh man.
But then I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I give myself these tasks that I'm like, why am I making myself feel bad for this thing that does not matter? I don't need to. There's no one's gonna test me on this.
I gotta see all these cartoons.
You gotta
Adventure
watch
Time's
it.
hard. There's a lot of Adventure Times.
There's a lot, man.
And
it's
only
short
few of
episodes,
them
but-
matter to the story.
Yeah, apparently, like only the last few seasons is actually like narrative where like the episodes actually linked together.
Oh.
But before that, the first handful of seasons, like it doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of random adventures. But a part of me is like, nah, man, if I want to consider myself a fan of a show, I got to know the lore. I got to know where these characters first introduced, what episode they came in, their story arc, even if it's a loose one.
Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned that about beating yourself up about not watching the show. I feel like every time someone says to me, "Oh, have you seen the show?" I'm notorious for just generally speaking, not watching a whole lot of TV, definitely YouTube dwelling. And my response to it is always like, "Oh, no, I'm just so behind on TV." And it's like it's really okay, like of all things to be behind on, it's okay that I'm behind on TV.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, still somehow manages to make you feel guilty.
Look, hey, you guys are professional stand-up comedians. I've done stand-up one time. So I just like to know, like, obviously you guys, when you're coming up and you're doing all these sets, you might have done certain jobs just to get by. What are some jobs you went through?
I've only ever had 2 jobs so far. I was a janitor for the Toronto District School Board. They like hire students during the summer, so it was like right after I graduated high school. I did that, and then my second year of college for the summer I was a janitor, and then after that I was a barista at Starbucks for a few years. And both decent jobs, I mean, yeah, not bad. I think I like being a janitor a bit more.
Really?
But I think that was also because I was a summer janitor. I wasn't there when school children were there all the time. So it's pretty much just like hanging out in an empty school, and like, yeah, no one was making a mess. So it was like low pressure.
Was it ever
I love that.
spooky at all, being in that huge building alone?
Oh, definitely. We traveled around school to school. That's what they do with the students, like just wherever janitors need you. And a couple of them, like I think Northern we went to the basement. And it was all like decrepit, and like the janitors didn't really need us, so we just like hung out in the basement. It was definitely super creepy.
I don't know. There's something beautiful about like nomadic janitors. You guys just traveling around wherever we're needed,
Wherever there's a mess. Yeah.
Whenever, wherever,
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that is incredible. And I can also imagine that being like as a result of maybe in comparison to your time at Starbucks, where it is like customer facing, and like there's also like very little control over who you're going to be met with on like a day where you may not be feeling the greatest either, right?
For sure.
Yeah. How about you, Guled?
I had when I started comedy, I was working at a children's, I call it clothing store, but it's like a children's store. It's like Once Upon a Time is what it's called.
Okay.
And it was like they sold children's clothing, equipment, strollers and such, toys. And so we would buy and sell used goods. And it's the first time I had managers and a supervisor who were both like very like decent and nice people. Like I told my manager that I wanted to start comedy and that I wanted as many afternoons off as possible. And he gave me, I think, only worked one afternoon shift during the weekday.
Wow.
And I was like, so he was very like, I was ready to be like, okay, then unfortunately I'm going to have to leave. It was going to be my second part if he didn't give me that. But then he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I was like, man, this guy's so great. He like wants me to do, like, I felt like I was one of the earliest supports that people were like, yeah, go do it, man. Cause I can't imagine any of the job be like, fuck you. Like, what do you mean? You want to do comedy? Yeah. And I'd like to be on an island where like, we're not going to get that, So I did that. And then later on, I also worked at Rogers over the phone selling stuff. I was bad at it. They fired me right before my probation ended. They fired me, but there was guaranteed commission checks for the first 3 months. So I was getting paid even after I got fired, which felt like the best scam that I'd ever run.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, man, these checks for like $1,000, $2,000. I don't know what I did, but I love it, And then I also did Uber Eats. I did Uber Eats for a little bit, cycling around town. I was not fast, and I felt bad when I messed up people's order. Like I give them stuff, and the bag clearly spilt, and I'm like, hey, I was like, hey, let's just call them and let them know. I'll confirm as well that it was me. I was just, It's a sad existence, you know.
Oh,
Met some cool
man.
people who this is their life, and I joined their WhatsApp group, and then after a while, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm one of you. You know, I'm gonna leave this
You're
group.
like a bicycle gang. Yeah.
That's right.
I was, yeah. They would hang out because they would like work like something like 6 to 8 hour days, you know. So they would work the morning lunch shift, and then they would like chill when it was slow in the couple hours in the evening, the afternoon, and then they jump on for the dinner thing, and they work for like 4 hours or whatever. So, and
Where's
these
the
guys are like
hang?
fast.
Yeah.
They
Where
hang
where
out
would they
what
meet up? I need to know. Where's
I
their
think
cheers?
different places, but like during the summertime, I hung out with them a couple times at Trinity Bellwoods.
Mm,
So they would go there and eat their lunches, smoke weed, have coffee,
that's right.
and then
Post up.
just talk about like just life and what
The
their financial
ride.
state was and how they hated the app at times and
That's
some rest. But
right.
they were like these people were like it was weird. I met like this. It was like this world that I don't like. I'm sure people I've walked by, but I've never noticed. So they live in definitely a different world than I do.
Mhm.
But just seeing how like these guys like, and I still see some of them now, like years later, still cycling. I'm like, I don't know his name, but like, I'm like, hey, you remember me? We hung out twice at Trinity Bellwoods. And they're like, I don't know, they're rocking fixed gear bikes. Some of them have like the GoPro cams on them, so if
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
crashes in them, they have the footage, and they're so fast. They run red lights. I love them, man. It was great.
Yeah, I did Uber Eats a bit during the early pandemic, and I can agree to the weed and coffee. Absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Like, how do you expect me to be around all this delicious food? You know, I can't touch it.
Yeah.
I'm just staying off it.
I
No, that was the best is whenever you got to keep food. It's like, man. But then it would have been nice if I was driving because when I'm cycling, my bag is only so big. Sometimes like I'm still trying to work for another couple hours. It's either I clock out and eat this food or tough decisions have to be made. I was like, just keep it or give it to somebody else.
Oh my gosh. When you mentioned like having to make that disappointing call just to be like, oh, I'm sorry I fucked up your order. I can't imagine like pulling up like sweaty, like you've got like the strap like stains from the bag and you're just like partially out of breath. You're like trying to be kind and welcoming to this person while also telling them that their low main is like somehow slipped its way all the way to the bottom of your bag.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's truly
I don't know
terrible.
what to tell you guys. Your McDonald's sometimes was bad where like eventually some places were really good at like taping the drinks down, but other times they wouldn't, and then like a drink would just pop like in my bag, and I was like, fuck, I'm sorry, your burger is wet.
Yeah.
Everything's Fruitopia flavored now.
Congrats. I mean, maybe it'll be easy to digest, I guess. I don't know. Do you care about those things?
Damn, that in many ways it's setting you up for failure in that sense. There's really only so much you can do with that like cooler backpack. There's very little structure.
Yeah.
Damn, that is you're right though. When for a couple summers I went tree planting in British Columbia, and very, very similarly in terms of like in terms of the structure of like the type of work, and in many ways the kind of like mental fortitude you need to take on this work where there are a lot of things that are out of your control, like the type of land that you're on, whether it's like rocky or soil, like super soily, or if like the weather is like really good or really terrible. And that's very much what I'm reminded of when I think about folks who are doing something like Uber Eats on like on bikes in the city, where it's yeah, there's like I think mental fortitude is the word that like comes to mind, because I can't imagine any other way to describe it. You like there's like hint of like masochism there, because you're like, oh yeah, it's okay if I get hit by this car, like I still gotta make this Fruitopia so burger delivery, and like on one hand it's like it will of course kind of speak to the precarious nature of like employment right now in many ways, but there's also a lot of people who have made it extremely lucrative and have found a way to like survive off it, in the same way that there are people who tree plant for like 3 months and make $40,000 to $50,000, which is absurd.
Yeah.
And kind of like chill out for the rest of the year, and then the start of April or start of May they get back into it, make their money, and rinse and repeat.
How were the
Yeah.
bugs tree planting? Is that prime like mosquito season?
Yeah. I can't deny that I had it easier than people who tree plant in Ontario. In northern
Okay.
Ontario, you have like deer flies and horse flies on top of mosquitoes, whereas in British Columbia you don't get the mosquitoes, but you don't get the former, you don't get the horseflies, the deer flies. So it can get bad. I think if you enter what's called like a summer plant, which is just it's just planting in the summer versus in the spring season. I guess not every kind of company has contracts for the summer. That's when it gets like a bit hairy because that's when the bees arrive. And I guess like in some of these areas where it was like clear cut, as you can imagine, a lot of these hives are like up in trees. And then of course, if this like this large plot of land has now, all these trees are like fallen over, all these hives are now on the ground, but you have no idea just because there's so much shit on the ground. So like I think even still am like traumatized from like not being able to tell the difference between like what like the crunching of like a twig and a leaf under my foot is versus like the crunching of like a beehive,
like a
Oh,
landmine. Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah.
It really was. And
goodness.
yeah, I think that was probably the worst. It was definitely the bees, and it was like there was nothing you could do. Like 100%, I would just be like planting, and sometimes I would just like hear like a twig snap under my foot, and I would just start running. It would definitely get to a point where I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm in this field by myself. No one knows how how much I'm losing it right now. Yeah.
Did it leave you with PTSD? Like you're in the city, you step on a twig, you're like, oh my god.
You know what? Honestly, Guled, I get like I like feel weak in my elbows when I hear like a bee buzzing, even if it's just like in my
Oh my
backyard.
God.
I like actually like I feel weak in the elbows when it happens, and I have to like tell myself, I'm like, it's okay, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not a hive.
No, that sounds like trauma, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that is a textbook definition of trauma.
Real trauma, if you ask me.
That's right. But it's been almost 6 years since I went tree planting, so slowly working through it, slowly but surely.
Nice.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. That's right. I appreciate you guys sharing that, because I think something that I think we is always kind of worth reflecting on, and we reflect on in different ways, is like not only like how we view ourselves as we kind of enter these like different stages, but where our kind of like where our like general headspaces are at, and what kind of not only how we view ourselves, but how we view the world around us. And I think it's fair to say there's very much a stark contrast between some of the jobs that you're working prior to working on Tallboyz with CBC. And in that process, I can imagine there's a lot of things that shifts maybe perspective wise in terms of like what you feel reassured about. I can imagine, for example, Guled, when you were working at like Rogers prior to working at Tallboyz, or there was like a lot more doubt about maybe like your skill set and like the quality of your work, and whether or not in the kind of current state of like Canadian media, whether or not it's like feasible, to kind of make it, for lack of a better word, where I'm sure in many ways a lot of those doubts are kind of dispelled, right? To a certain degree. And obviously I want to ask you about that. So I guess that's a question for the two of you is, do you feel like you doubt the same things, about yourself or like the world around you, as you did, prior to working on the show? And what are those things? What is it that brings you doubt?
That's a good question.
It really, I feel like I'm in therapy. Thank you. That's normally Saturdays, but I do like to get it in a little earlier.
Nice.
Well.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I feel like definitely the doubts, some of the same doubts that stayed with me, I think, before getting the show and during the show. And those general doubts are, how good am I? Can I continue doing this? Can I continue producing at the level that being at this place requires? And then also like some of the feelings I've felt, some of the things I've felt about myself before the show, of like, finding it very hard to be kind to myself, but noticing all the things I'm not doing well. And so now on the show, I get it to see on a bigger screen, on multiple screens now, the things I'm not doing well, as opposed to just it was a recording that I did on my phone, which is terrible quality, or it's just audio. So I can't even see what my face was doing. I can just hear my voice and then try to picture what was I know I didn't enjoy this, but what was my face,
Yeah.
So I think some of those doubts have definitely are still here with me, just in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree where like the doubt evolves. It's interesting, especially like being on a show, like compared to just working at Starbucks doing comedy. Like I think I might have doubted how funny I was less when I wasn't professional, but that's also because there's like no stakes. Like every show I was doing was purely like just for fun. Oh, my friends are here. I'm gonna tell some jokes. I've been working on this. I don't know if it works, but all of a sudden, when you get an opportunity like a show, it's definitely reassuring. Which like, oh, like it wasn't crazy for me to step out and try and do comedy on a certain level. It's like, yeah, very reassuring. But then all the comedy you're doing is going to be seen at this national level. So you're like, I don't know, you question yourself where it's like, oh, is this ready? Is this show good enough? Like, can I do better? Like, and then like even in the room, like writing with each other, we're all great friends, but there's all certain times where you're not like, oh, I'm not feel like I'm pulling my weight in the writer's room right now. I need to come in with more sketches, more premises. Like it definitely, it comes in waves. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thank you both for sharing that. I know, I like you said, I maybe came with the therapy consultation to start this episode.
No, but I mean, it's an interesting question because like I don't think we get asked a lot about doubts. Normally, we get asked questions about like, what is it like to write for a show? What is it like being diverse? So it's like being asked like, do you have doubt? Like that's I don't think that maybe it's the first or maybe second time anyone's asked me, do I have doubt doing this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's important to like reflect on, because like you said too, right, they're gonna shift as a result of your spaces. I mean, whether it's like something you feel insecure about, or if it's like a challenge in like, feeling kind of like stern, or maybe like not stern, comfortable in like in who you are and where you are in the world, and uh how kind you kind of, as you said, can be to yourself, how gentle you can be with yourself while still wanting to kind of improve, rather than maybe being critical in that way. um but I think we wanted to ask you that question because, of course, as you said, I at the same time as, feeling like there might be some more validation as a result of being paid to write sketches, um there there's like these stakes, right, that like we can, I mean, I'm sure on one hand, I'm sure there are tons of people who are like, oh yeah, don't worry about it, don't worry about these voices, but it's like, okay, come on, we've spent our whole lives, literally our whole lives, and still up until this point, feeling like, in sometimes, invisible scrutiny, but also in many ways very, very, very explicit kind of scrutiny and judgment, and particularly on a platform like CBC too, right? It's like, I can imagine there's also just like, thinking of like its legacy in like Canada or whatever it is, there's just a lot of layers to that, which obviously makes it more complex. So I think, yeah, we didn't just want to leave it there, be like, okay, great, you guys are done. But I think, on the converse, I suppose I want to ask, what do you feel more reassured about? What, outside of maybe just your outside of your craft, because I'm sure, as you said, right, being able to kind of wake up every day and go after sketches and work on them and hone them, is like incredibly validating, I imagine. But outside of what you've now kind of been able to achieve, on a professional front, what do you feel more reassured about yourselves, if at all?
Oh, that's a good question. That's the thing. I feel like that my answer to this question would also be very different pre-pandemic, because I feel like just have everything shutting down and staying inside for a year has made me doubt everything about myself, and just gave me a lot of time to focus on everything, I guess, and dwell.
Dwell, for sure.
Yeah. Let me think. I think I'm still got to work at it, but honestly, working on the show has helped me a lot on just communication skills in life, and I think we really learned how to the importance and how to like check in and talk to each other about our feelings while working on the show, and just like making sure we're all comfortable and how we feel about the material, and like I've applied that into other aspects of my life, just like learning how to communicate a lot better. That's definitely like. I still got ways to go, but I think that's one thing that the show has 100% given me.
Yeah. And
I think I'm one of the best communicators out there. It's me, I think Barack Obama,
the guy who invented the Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah.
him too. No, I agree with Tim. Like, I have to say, just like, the communication is definitely up there for me. Like, just being able to know that like these guys have my back. That like, if I express like if I'm not feeling well, or not enjoying something, part of the process, that their instinct is to be like, how can we make it better for you? It's a very new thing, because like I don't know if I'm used to that level of support. Of people being like, what can we do to make this thing better for you? I'm like, this is very like, I still feel like it's a trap, Part of me is like, I come back at some point, they're like, so that time we helped you, here's what we need in return. I'm like, damn it, I knew I couldn't trust it.
Yeah.
But definitely I think like on just a more personal level, like feeling that like I'm still capable of doing this, even with all the doubt and feelings that I bring into it, that sometimes I'm like, man, if I can just lighten some of this load, I want to fly, baby. I want to fly. Oh my goodness, I can't wait.
That's I think a really incredible, really incredible way to kind of to sit with it, because like you said, it's not just gonna disappear in an instant. I certainly empathize with the fear that comes with accepting like kindness or like love or in this particular way, as like a way of, I mean, again, we obviously don't want to make our I mean, fuck it, our podcast episode is now officially therapy. We're running with it.
We started with the grieving of Norman Powell.
Yeah, we set the tone.
Yeah. We're gonna run through the gambit.
Exactly.
And then we will all be crying and be like, we should listen, guys, we don't need to put this out, but this is great.
this is great. This really meant a lot. But no, that's of course it's like it's gonna end up being an ongoing process, right? And I think like not necessarily embracing the doubt to the point where you limit yourself, right? But allowing for it to be there as like something that, I think to what Tim said, right, is like embracing it as this thing that of course is not going to disappear overnight, but as something that you inch away at, right, as like a dial movement forward, rather than a binary of success or failure, which oftentimes is what we kind of fall into the trap of, right? And I think I'm sure all of us can kind of speak to that binary that exists in our homes as well, which or growing up, I should say, pardon me. But thank you both for sharing that. I think it's important to hear that, particularly when I think particularly from people who spend most of their days making other people laugh as well, right? You play a great role in contributing to the kind of wellness of other people, but what are you saying?
I know who's making us laugh.
Who's making you laugh? Exactly. Exactly.
That's a good one. This is, of course, friendship, but it's also a business at this point. And and you know what, like with this, obviously a lot of like different challenges pop up, and you guys have to kind of know, well, this is how I would look at it. I'm not sure if other groups of friends look at it, but when the business can get nasty, maybe it's best to kind of separate that for a little bit. But when you guys are kind of working together, how do you deal with kind of that pushback that you might deal with when it comes to creating those ideas and things like that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I think number one is, especially like also navigating business or even creative ideas, and this goes back to the last question, is like operating as a united front, as us, the Tallboyz. Like I think we were very lucky to come in this scenario as a sketch troupe, as friends for a while, and I think that's truly like the core of it. Like, no matter what, like just checking in with how we all feel about it, and coming up with some sort of compromise, for lack of the better word, or maybe more agreement, but like I think like that's really our foundation, is operating from a place where we can all agree on and feel comfortable, and then like whether that be an idea that maybe the network isn't so hot on, but it's like, oh, I really care about this, you guys really want this, let's push and fight for this idea and make sure it gets on screen, or whether it's like negotiating contracts, it's like, let's all come to a consensus. And I think we also get a lot of power from that, like operating as a unit.
Yeah, totally. I agree with them. Yeah, it's still like a work in progress too, where we're figuring this stuff out as we go, because like we were a troupe for 2 years and then we got a show, and so we're like in the infancy of our like development as a group, outside of the show. And so learning of like how we communicate with each other, and because it is like I think with anything, but maybe more so with art, is like it gets emotional, because you're trying your best to hone whatever that thing is inside you onto paper and make other people laugh. And when it doesn't get a laugh, that hurts, because you're like, man, I put a part of me in this thing and it just didn't land. But learning to like also, it's still very hard, like to listen to criticism when something's bombed, even if the criticism is to help make it better, you're just like, I'm in my feelings,
That's
and
right.
I'm like fucking, and then it's hard to like be like, you gotta pay attention to what people are saying and not just start spiraling and stuff. And so like learning to like, even as a group, to like have those moments of like where we don't all see eye to eye on something, but can we have a discussion and express our feelings in a way that like you're heard, but also like it feels somewhat productive,
Yeah, it's that's a really brilliant way to put it. I think it can be like really scary when, for like a moment in those like moments of hearing like criticism, which is what it is, or a critique of your work, you like forget that these people like have like an undying respect for you and like a care for you,
Absolutely, they become my haters immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew you were plotting.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like something you'd say.
That's right. And it's like it's scary, just like how the mind can play those games, right? Where like in an instance you have to like stop and be like, oh, hold on, this person is telling me this not only because they care about me and they're being honest with me, but it's because they're looking at this kind of larger picture too, right? I I suppose, to follow up on that, I like it sounds like there's a lot of kind of like honesty and a lot of candor amongst the four of you. But I guess I'm curious to know in what ways, or to what degree it becomes like a game of like a game of inches almost, when there's pushback from or if ever from like the studio, because of course I can imagine, as a result of what you folks want to talk about and kind of convey in your comedy, a lot of which I think has like come across really well. Like All They Tolerate is like a really lovely example. And in many ways it's something that I kind of want to ask too, is like, do you find yourselves ever kind of like balancing that front with a studio, because you're very much aware of like the game that's kind of played there, right? Whether it's like one, the fact that it's like, okay, yeah, sure, like we got these four diverse guys on the air, this is like we're doing our part, which to a certain degree is true, but of course, and I'm sure you folks feel this way, is you want more, you want to talk about more, you want to speak on more, and that I can imagine ends up being a roadblock sometimes. Is that something that you find yourselves having gotten into a better groove of knowing how to manage? Do you feel like, I doubt that united front kind of goes anywhere when you are met with resistance, but how do you deal with that kind of resistance or pushback when it is kind of from this larger governing body?
Yeah, I think Bruce really helps with that. Bruce
Mm.
McCullough, who like show runs and produce and,
Yeah.
and directs, like coming from having so much experience doing the Kids in the Hall and working in television. And I think especially dealing with networks, he kind of taught us that, yeah, it is a game of inches, and it's like you got to pick your battles. When you get network notes back on material that you wrote, some of the notes are pretty reasonable. It's like, oh, we need more clarity here, we understand here. And then some of the notes are a bit more abstract, and it's like, oh, we don't really feel this or something. So it's like learning like what notes to accept and be like, oh, thank you, that, and what notes like you need to push back on. It's like, no, this sketch has to happen this way. They have to say this specific dialogue. Like, it's very important to what we're trying to convey. And I think I think that's super helpful also, like, because you want a healthy relationship with the network to a certain degree.
Of course.
Like, you don't want to cater to everything, because I feel like they're always trying to rein you in and make sure you're not too off the rails. And as an artist, I think you're trying to push the boundaries and do what you can.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful, to implement certain notes so they're like, oh, they know we're listening, we know we're here, but then be able to push back on the things that truly matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like everything Tim said there. I mean, I felt like even like in general, like I feel like we like, yeah, Bruce is such a good liaison. Like, he's the one who deals with the network. But overall, like, I think our experience has been, I don't know if we get like a ton of pushback on stuff, because a lot of stuff there, like, it's more, yeah, as Tim was saying, either clarity or abstract things, but there's not too often where they're like, we hate this idea, or we just absolutely do not, like, I don't get this idea at all. Most of the time it's just like, yeah, maybe not this one, or maybe we have too much poop related stuff, you gotta pick which sketch you want.
And I also think, especially when you talk about like a sketch like All Day Tolerate, I think that comes back to the doubt where it's like, yeah, I think we are a diverse guy. We're all one guy who's super diverse.
Is it Megatron?
yeah. We all form into a Voltron. Yeah.
Voltron, there we go.
We're a diverse sketch troupe, and I think that's also what CBC is interested in. We can tackle a lot of topics that other shows can't really get to as kosher as we can. But so they're very interested in certain stuff like All They Tolerate, and I think that's where the pressure and doubt comes, where it's like you write a premise, dealing with something with race, and CBC is like ready, like, oh yeah, give it to us, like we want to hear, like bring it. And it's like, I don't know if I've tackled out this idea yet,
Right?
Like, and it that's where it becomes like a conversation between us. Like, All They Tolerate was a big battle of many issues, trying to refine like what we're trying to say, because it's a big thing, and it's like hopefully I think a lot of people of color can relate to, but we want to get it right. It's also like, other people have touched on similar topics, so we want to make sure we're putting our stamp on it.
For sure.
That's our own, but also it's still something that will reign true when people watch and enjoy.
Yeah, one of my favorite sketches is the grandmother sketch where all you can say is like, how's your knee? And I love that because I speak Tamil, my grandmother speaks Tamil. All I can say is how are you 40 times in a visit. And it makes me wonder, like, is that something that the studio network like gets off rip, or do you have to like explain this and kind of understand?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if there was I think they understood what was happening. Yeah. Like I felt like they understood what the POV was in that one. I think maybe there was like, maybe the notes might have been sometimes to do with pacing or certain like just the like small little details on the sketch. But I think I felt from off the rip, they got what I was trying to go for in that sketch. And it was actually, like it was I think it's the first time definitely in the sketch troupe that I've even mentioned being Somali, and probably one of the few jokes or one of the few ideas since doing comedy where I mention even being Somali. Like it's something that like it's weird. Like I talk about being black more than I do being Somali, even though Somali is part of it, because I just maybe at times still struggle with like my Somali identity of like
Yeah.
I've grown up Somali, but like I don't feel super connected to community outside of my family.
Mm.
And so then I feel like then there's like I don't have as much to draw from, and also because my Somali is terrible as well, that like I'm sure that's where a lot more humor, like if I could like if I understood like the intricacies of this language and the community, then I could draw more things. I feel like at times like I'm a foreigner making jokes about being
Mm.
Somali as opposed to a Somali person drawing from that experience.
Wow. And that's got I can imagine too, it's like as a result of kind of feeling that way when you do bring it to the table, there like a lot of people I can imagine the assumption is also like, oh yeah, this is like this is just a joke, you're just like parodying this, and you're actually like, I know this happened last week when I saw my grandmother, yeah, damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like the hardest part of that specific Somali grandmother sketch was casting someone who like spoke Somali of that age and uncomfortable being on camera. Like that was
Yeah.
definitely like the toughest part.
Yeah, eventually, the person who ended up playing my grandmother was the person who was sent out to find my grandmother. You just couldn't find anyone. She was like, I mean, I could do it. Like, if you need me.
Yeah, it's fine. Why did you just ask me?
Yeah,
Like, I didn't know how. I literally didn't know how.
So, yeah, so eventually they're like, she's like, yeah, I'll do it, and it's just very nice. I kept thanking her like profusely because there just aren't a lot of Somali people doing like this in general.
Mhm.
So obviously then there wouldn't be a lot of Somali elderly people doing this because
Right.
there just aren't a lot of younger people doing it. So it's just like they're missing all throughout the pipeline. There's people who are doing it, but just the numbers are so small.
Yeah.
You're paving the way. You're going to be the Somali grandpa in a couple of decades.
I'm
everywhere.
excited, dude.
Morgan Freeman, Somali
Danny Glover,
Morgan Freeman.
you know.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm excited, but I'll figure out what the Somali translation for that is.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It'll be you and Moji just paving the way. True.
And Barakat Abdi, the guy who played the
man.
pirate.
That's
I got to see him in more movies. You know what I'm saying? Like he was so convincing as a pirate. I'm like, let's see him in now. A different thing, a rom-com. You know?
Yeah. What other films I've seen him in? Good Time. He's in that Safdie Brothers film.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I totally forgot about that. That's a great movie.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Very small role and yeah, unfortunate role. To some degree without spoiling much. He's also in Blade Runner 2049. He plays a very small role. Yeah.
He's working his way up. Okay, I like
killing it.
He's working his way up. That's right.
I mean, what a big role to like come out in first ever time acting and to be playing such like that character, you know?
That's right.
And then he says the line that like sums up the movie. That's the only quote.
Know.
That's the only quote. Like, yeah.
And it's still in like it was like in I think not the most recent season, but the season 4 now, Big Mouth, season 3 of Big Mouth. They did it. It was a joke where like they changed Nick Kroll's character to make it look like he's like, I am the captain now. It was just like a little joke they did. I was like, yeah, what's in this bitch? Look at that. That's so cool. We're animated now.
Yeah, stole the movie with a line.
Beautiful.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Some say that GIF is maybe up there better than the movie.
I mean, I remember that GIF more than I do the entire movie. To be honest with you.
That's right. You actually raise a really great point though. His kind of like ascent was like phenomenal. I think like. And if I'm not mistaken, the actors who played the other pirates are his boys, like from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Dope. With the day ones. Oh man.
I know.
Exactly. So just like one like jumping into like a really intense and like high big budget movie production, I can imagine was like super overwhelming. So to have his like friends there with them is like really sweet. It's just like, oh yeah, I was just like with my friends, like quite literally these are the people that that I feel close with.
That's not cool.
Wait, have you guys actually had to do auditions prior to this for like those super like typecast kind of roles?
I've done a few auditions. Yeah, at some definitely typecast where it's just like, uh, I'm only going out for this role because I'm black. This is not my type at all. Like I'll do the audition, but you're not gonna cast me in this role. All right, I'm not a gangster.
Oh man.
By any means, yeah. I only recently got an agent, but the few auditions I went were not typecast in that way. They were just weird selling a cereal where your hand turns into a claw of a crab or something like that. And it's like just these weird things where like, but play it normal. It's like, okay, so normally I'd be freaking out, but let's be playful about it. I'm like, okay, so not play it normal then. Those things where you're like, that's why when I see people book those commercials, I'm like, man, you have to fight a lot of instincts to do the thing that they want, which is not what naturally people would be doing.
Yeah, I think the role, the key to landing any commercial acting role is you have to get really good at being like, this is kind of weird, but I'm still about it. Like this weird, like almost officey, like what's going on, but like not too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's most comedy commercials.
You've
broken
seen
down.
this before,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, but
Okay, this is weird. Yeah.
yeah.
That reminds us of a guest we've had on the show before, Edward Kim, who
yeah,
Oh, you guys-
he's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Humber alum.
The
incredible.
comedy community is like it's surprisingly, at least in Toronto, like there are a lot of people doing it, but if you're doing enough shows, like you kind of know most of the players in the scene.
That's cool. That is really
Yeah.
cool.
I definitely. I think like it's also so cool where like you see people who are professional who are doing it so long, and like you're in your first year and you get to be on shows with them. Like that doesn't happen in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of sad for the pros, but I mean it's such great experience. Like like starting out. Yeah.
Mhm.
You guys felt the pressure to move to the States at all, to try New York out or anything like that?
I mean, that's where it seems like, yeah, especially in Canada, like you don't really get the recognition until you go to the States. I mean, but I love Canada. I love Toronto. If I could really keep on like doing comedy and making a living here, like I don't think I need to move, but yeah, there's always the allure of like New York City. That's where you go to be a comedian.
Yeah.
25 shows in one night. Like
Exactly. Where else can you do it?
yeah.
I did think about that. Yeah,
else?
where it's like I've gone back and forth on it. Where like I still feel like I want to, like for some reason, the States. I want to try at Los Angeles. Just like this. This is my Moby Dick. I gotta know. I just gotta know. So I gotta like. I feel like I gotta go there and give it like. If I was going there, and that's the part I'm still struggling with. Is like if I go there, now you go into a bigger pool with many more people. So it's like the competition is not. It doesn't have to necessarily be like the pool is like everyone's so much better than you, but it's just so many more people.
Yeah.
So like being like if I go there, like I gotta give it everything I have to see like what could happen.
For sure.
So there's a part of me that just wants to try it out just to see like it's weird, like I'm doing a TV show here, but the problem is like that's gonna be different when you do it in the States, Then I'm really doing a TV show. Even though I'm still doing a TV show here, I'm like, but it's different. Like, there's CBC, then there's NBC, it's just like the budgets are bigger, ABC, right? It's like, so a part of me is like, I just want to like, it's probably the same thing, but a part of me is like, let me just see. Maybe their writers room have different tables, different notepads,
Yeah. You're gonna
Maybe
be
they write with their left hand more often.
Exactly.
I'm not sure. We'll find out.
You're gonna be walking down, Crenshaw Boulevard, and you're gonna see 3 other people who look exactly like you, who like give you like an elevator look as you walk by, and you're like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
There's only one of me in Toronto. How's this happen?"
Exactly. Yeah. I go there. I'm like, I'm not special anymore. Damn it.
and whereas like here, you say that, and someone comes and like pats your shoulder and like, "Hey, no, Guled, there's so much about you. That's incredible." You're like,
Yeah.
bus stop in LA, someone just like, yeah, it's absolutely right. There's nothing special.
And then you gotta compete with Dane Cook over there.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
impossible.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just got a monopoly on the whole industry. My God. Dane Cook. I want to be mindful of time here, and want to thank the two of you for sharing as much as you have with us. To wrap things up, we're just gonna just pivot a little bit and enter a segment of the show that we're just introducing right now, called Crypto Talk, and we're just gonna spend the next actually hour, the remaining of this episode, exclusively talking about crypto. You know,
Nice.
you're obviously
I
in this. New,
prepared.
yeah, oh, great. You
We
know,
only
'cause-
doing an hour. I can go for 3.
but no, truly, thank you so much for being here. You know, we'll do the quick pitch. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Tuesday nights at 9:30 that you can watch Tallboyz on CBC Gem. You know, get the app, wade through the Fido ads, you know, the Manulife ad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's worth it. And you know, I was gonna say, you have any parting words, but that's not helpful if there's no lead up to that, you know. So instead, I will simply ask, you know, how are the two of you gonna spend your evening today?
I'm gonna do some grocery shopping. Mean to do that for a while, and if I can, do laundry. But you know,
Yeah.
That's nice. That's
for-
2 things. 2 things.
It's two
That's two
things.
things.
I'm gonna see how I feel when I get off this. Actually, let's see what the time is. Yeah, laundry's off the list.
It's off the list.
Just look at the time. I was like, probably not gonna happen. Grocery shopping can happen though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How about you, Tim?
I'm gonna watch some Sketchfest. Toronto Sketchfest is happening right now
Ooh.
online, so I'm gonna log on, watch some sketches.
Brilliant.
Hell yeah.
That's incredible. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Gula, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We hope
Yeah, great time.
we hope in a you know, I was gonna say distant future, but in a near future we can do something like this again, where we reflect, you know, on what we're doubting and what we
Yeah,
got
definitely.
reassured about, and you know, who knows, maybe at that point you'll be in New York doing 50 shows a night, you know, chain smoking with Chappelle, just having a time.
The
And I'll be
dream.
getting crushed by Dane Cook.
Yeah, exactly.
I just can't go anywhere, dude. This guy really runs the scene.
So pervasive.
Yeah.
But this has been episode 85 of High Top Flip Flops. As always, I'm Krish. I'm here with Navek. We've got Guled and Tim from Tallboyz. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Everyone say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.